All right. Hey, hi, and hello, everyone. Anthony Fantano here, internet's busiest music nerd. I hope you're doing well. And it's time for another video in our ongoing, maybe not so ongoing at this point, series where I take to Billboard's top 100 tracks in a given year. I snatch the top 10 and I put those tracks into a tier list according to my personal opinion and views on those songs. We did the 2010s, and now with 2009, we are closing up shop on the 2000s. And honestly, I think we are going to take a break on this series for a bit. Don't know if I'm going to drag it out any further. So with that being said, without any further ado, let's get into the tier list. And of course, we are kicking it off at number 10, which Billboard says, according to its list, is All American Rejects. Gives you hell, it gives you hell. Which, aesthetically for its time, I think is just really dated by pop rock and pop punk standards. However, I still think this is a decently written song. It's still very catchy. It's still very snappy. The riffs are solid. The vocals may not necessarily be my style, but, certainly solid for something in this genre too. Yeah, I mean, I think the song in a lot of ways is just a good distillation of a lot of pop rock, pop punk, and emo vibes, just kind of compacted into something that works well in a radio format, but without getting so obnoxious and corny and over the top, as we will see with some other tracks in this list. Just a solidly written poppy rock song for the radio. I would give it a B. We're going to put it in row B. Okay, next we have a very interesting and legendary single from Kanye West. That would be Heartless, the biggest cut from his, of course, 808s and Heartbreak era. Honestly, to be frank, I think it's a great tune. I think it's a fucking anthem, dog. The groove, the chord changes, the vocal melodies are all fantastic. Easily one of the catchiest and most melodically infectious songs in Kanye's entire discography. Yeah, it's the biggest single from the record, but in my view, I think it's kind of the best song on the album as well. The only thing about the record is I think over the years, it has kind of aged a little bit, not in the best way. I don't think the beat has as much punch as it could, and on top of it, like the way the auto-tune is used, while obviously for the time it was cutting edge, hugely influential to a lot of the hip-hop and auto-tune stuff we hear now, hugely influential to Drake, definitely an album and a song that laid the groundwork for much of the hip-hop landscape at the moment, but it still does kind of sound like a product of its time a little bit, even if it was ahead of the curve. Plus, there are some production elements that I think Kanye definitely improved on with his following record in terms of, again, the auto-tune and some of the distorted vocals, that sort of thing. But yeah, still, I think the song is great. I think it's fantastic. I would put it in the A row, A for Anthem. Okay, next we have the legendary cultural splash that is Beyonce's Single Ladies. From the singing to the production to the music video, everything about this drop was absolutely nuts and has completely withstood the test of time. In this entire list, I think it's easily the most best aged song of the bunch, and on top of it, like, even listening back to it today, like, the production is insane. The way the vocals are grouped on the track is so hype. The thumping beat hits hard as hell still now, years later. On top of it, like, those droning synths are like really odd and add almost like an unsettling element to the track, and those odd shots of woo, 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 woo in the background, like really unhinged shit on the production side with this track. Plus, you're talking about one of the most standout and hype vocal performances of Beyonce's entire studio career. Immensely catchy and well-written as well, even if in a lot of respects it doesn't really follow your traditional kind of, pop song or R&B song format. Like, obviously, with hindsight being 2020, the fact that this track is so popular, is so fantastic, is so well received is just kind of duh, it's a given. But when you look at the very odd, very specific characteristics that the song has going for it, it's very interesting that it hit as hard as it did and continues to be as culturally relevant as it is. Stellar track, wonderful, amazing. I would put it in the S row. Bam. Okay, next we have the boy, Jason Mraz. What is this Sesame Street ass song? What is this 2000s YouTube freaking acoustic song boy ass song? This hopeful pharmaceutical commercial ass song. Moving on from there, we have Flo Rida with Right Round featuring Kesha. Now, if you guys watched our last video in the series, which I recommend that you do, you remember that we were absolutely going crazy for the Flo Rida track Low, which, you know, in my opinion, is an amazing, catchy, and fantastic club classic. As far as 2000s club bangers go, are there any better ones? I'm really not sure, especially at the mainstream level. However, you know, I think this single over here with Kesha is just kind of a show of that being a bit of a fluke. But look, I'll say this, going back and listening to this track is interesting because it does prove that a thing, an issue, a problem that I have with a lot of popular music today, a lot of charting music today, was a problem back then as well. What I'm talking about is just basically stealing the melody or the chorus from another better song, interpolating it, and not to imply that Flo Rida, you know, didn't give credit here, writing credit for the chorus to the new wave classic "You Spin Me Round" from Dead or Alive. I'm not saying that. My issue, my problem here is that we basically have a chorus taken from a better, very popular song, and we just offload it into an objectively much crappier song to play very loudly in the club, where the production is worse, the singing is tackier, the verses suck, and yeah, there's a lot of that going on right now. And obviously there was a great deal of that going on back in the day as well. The song is gross. It's annoying as hell. I absolutely cannot stand to listen to not even a full minute of it. I'm putting it in the F row. Bam. Okay, next we have the queen herself, Taylor Swift, with a very early era single, Love Story. Man, this is when Taylor was still on that pop country kick and was sounding pretty good doing it. And I think Love Story is one of the best singles to come out of that era. It's very straightforward, solid instrumentation throughout the track. Nothing too crazy or exciting to write home about, but I think the tune, the song at the core of it, the lyricism is great, and that Taylor's vocals are especially compelling and expressive. I will say, though, I do think, you know, kind of the updated Taylor's version of the song is just, you know, a smidge nicer, a smidge. I think it's a nice, straightforward, solid, again, pop country radio ballad, no more, no less. Good structure, good performance, good production. The thing about pop songwriting in this format is that, you know, you really have to kind of walk this balance between writing a song that catches people, that gets people thinking, that gets people feeling the emotions that you're putting out there in the tune, while simultaneously making things simple, making things really direct. Sometimes when you lose out on the details that you have to kind of throw out when being blunt and straightforward and to the point, you end up with a really plain tune that doesn't have a lot of flavor or a lot of specifics to it. And I think Taylor was able to, you know, kind of work those angles and find the right balance really well on this track. Love Story, I would put in the A row. All right, next on this list, we have the Black Eyed Peas track, I Got a Feeling. While yes, this song is disgustingly dated to the point where it makes me want to gouge my eardrums out, it was also an awful listen at the time it came out. The tacky blend of pop and rock and club music and hip hop with this super mindless and idyllic view of like, yeah, let's go out tonight. Let's party up. Have a good time. Yeah, 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 yeah. Okay, these next two tracks we are going to have on the screen at once because they are from the same artist, and obviously there's a lot of creative crossover between the both of them, and I think a lot of what I'm kind of commenting on here applies to both cuts. We have Lady Gaga from the Fame era, Just Dance, and Poker Face, which I think are some pretty solid dance pop cuts for the era. I mean, for my money, on Lady Gaga's catalog, while she does have quite a few highs across her discography in terms of albums and singles, it's really about, you know, the Fame and the Fame Monster, especially the Fame Monster eras for me. In terms of the pumping beats and really over the top and exhilarating, electrifying vocal performances, Lady Gaga was, you know, I guess like a force in her time, and, you know, continues to be. I think her legacy and influence is certainly borne out in a lot of the underground and queer pop and dance music that we hear now. And I think cuts like these have aged relatively well. Now, I will say production-wise, things do sound a little dry. I do prefer the production that we heard on The Fame Monster just a bit more, but still, Just Dance is a good quality fun song. The one thing about the track that rubs me the wrong way slightly is some of the lyrics are silly to the point where I feel like I'm listening to an SNL sketch, especially when Gaga is kind of going on about how, like, you know, she doesn't know what's going on and so on and so, oh, what club is this? What's happening? Woo! I mean, for sure, it does speak to the chaos that can be clubbing and bar hopping and everything, but it's delivered in such a way where it seems like, I don't know, too silly for words. I would still put the track in B, though. It doesn't wreck the song, but kind of makes me just wince a little bit. But still, you know, Poker Face here, which is a great track, and I think a slightly better track, is killer all around, very solid production, clever lyrics, kind of orienting everything around, you know, cards and the game of poker, a great vocal performance as well. Love those rhythmic poker face and also vocally throughout the track too. I would put this song over in the A row. And finally, according to Billboard, the #1 song of the year was freaking Black Eyed Peas. Yeah, another weird, annoying dud from the Black Eyed Peas era. But I will say this. I feel like will.i.am was on to something with the production on this track. The kind of skeletal, robotic grooves, the bassy hits, the refrains of boom, boom, boom. Like, you know, I love that kind of sending sliding little inflection in the instrumental and on the vocals, kind of taking things in a slightly futuristic way with the auto-tune and kind of implying that, you know, the song's coming from years in the future, that kind of thing. Yeah, I think all of that is cool. And I think kind of the sassiness and the attitude and some of the lyrics works as well. And I like how it's not super overdone throughout a lot of the track. It's super basic. It's super stark. It's to the point. You know, like the Beyonce track, it's interesting that a song that is this stark, you know, kind of hit in the way that it did. However, there's so many painfully corny bars and, like, you know, breakdown moments throughout the track that I just cannot stand. It just makes it sound like a shitty comedy song. Let the beat rock. Yeah, yeah. Let the beat. Let the beat rock. It sounds like the most annoying rave on the planet. Yeah, I can't with this. I really can't. Even though there are elements of the song that I love and I think are interesting and, you know, I think are pretty unique for the track and ahead of the curve. Like, geez, it's so obnoxious. It's so freaking obnoxious. Let the beat rock. I think we could go, you know, half and half with it and maybe throw it like in the D row, maybe make it big and it'll take up both D and C, because why the heck not? It's maybe the last video in the series. Yeah, we could leave it there. But yeah, that's it. That's all. Love you. You're the best. Mwah. Let me know what you think of this tier list over here. And yeah, I will catch you guys in a future video. Over here next to my head is another one that you can check out. Hit that up or the link to subscribe to the channel. Anthony Fantano, 2009 of Forever.